the advice was to try to keep from getting emotional in tough conversations. You state your case first, and then you stick to answering questions after. You don't try to convince people. That's not the way you get emotional in tough conversations, even at work, is when you try to convince someone on the other side. He said, go in strong, state your case, and then answer the questions you were asked after that. So I certainly took notes on that today because I think it's a really powerful way to think about.
Oh, good people. This is Mark Thompson, your interview expert, here with another great interview podcast set up today for Career Transformation Academy. We are here with a special guest to give you some details about applying your goals to applying your career mindset to your goals. Let me make sure that's right. But before we do that, I want to introduce you to the wonderful, gracious, Global DEI expert, specialist, leader, however you want to call it, Miss Dee McDougal. Hi, Dee. Say hello to the people.
Hello to the people.
Thank you for joining. I appreciate you for coming on the podcast here just to talk to the audience, to the folks who are part of my course, and also folks who are just interested to learn more about Career Transformation Academy and what they can do to excel in their careers. So,
love it.
I brought you on here because you're an expert. You're a leader in your company as a DEI leader, global DEI leader. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So as you mentioned, I'm a global DEI leader. I work in management consulting, and I also coach diversity practitioners and help them build their careers and navigate tough spaces within the DEI world. My career in diversity, equity, and inclusion didn't come through HR. I made a career pivot out of marketing a few years ago, and have built my career based on what I'm good at and what I'm interested in. So that's kind of how I landed where I am, and I enjoy what I do every day, and I enjoy helping people build their careers.
That's awesome. That's definitely the swim lane. I think everybody that's paying attention just wants to just learn and get more information about. I myself enjoy the HR space, so giving back to the people as well. But you in particular have a special skill set. DEI is a special world. So, how do you show up to your corporate job every day with, your job in mind, but also just what is it in your mind that you have to come and show up to the job with the right mindset to perform at an optimal level, at a global level?
Yeah, so a few things. I'd say that, number one, authenticity is really important for me, specifically because I operate within, a DEI space. I'm telling people all the time, we want you to show up as your authentic self. So it's important that I show up as my authentic self and sort of lead by example in that space. So
I'm taking notes.
Yeah, that's cool. That's super important for me is authenticity, right? So being able to be who I am, being able to bring sort of my superpowers, what makes me special, what makes me good at my job, bringing that to work, bringing my identity to work, who I am, what's important to me, my values, my personal values. And when choosing a company, it was really important for me to be able to choose a company where my personal values were aligned with the company's values as well. So all of that together helps me show up as Dee for the work that I'm doing every day. And so if we think about what diversity, equity, and inclusion means, diversity is all about identity, different attributes, parts of who we are. That inclusion piece is how do we experience the workplace? Does everyone experience it the same way based on their identity? But the equity part is about systems and access. So when you ask the question of like, how do I show up and what am I thinking about? Every single day I'm thinking about, access, opportunity, representation, and experience. So, do we have representation of various different identities? Do the people from different identities get to experience our workplace in the same way? And if not, how do we need to adjust the systems, processes, our ways of working to make sure that everyone has an equitable opportunity to build a brilliant career where I work, right? So that's the lens through which I see, my work day.
Mm-hmm.
Apologies if you hear some footsteps in the back. My dog roams around like he owns the joint. But
He's your
that's really how
DEI
I show up.
specialist.
He is my junior DEI specialist for sure. And he barks at everyone, regardless of identity. So he takes an equitable approach to how he does his job. But that's how I show up every day, right? I show up as me. I'm same D
Mm-hmm.
inside of work, outside of work, right? So there's not a lot of code switching for me.
Right.
And then I show up and I look at things the same way every day. Equity, what our systems and our practices look like, inclusion and belonging. What is the experience like for people who are here? And then from a representation perspective, how are we faring? What do we need to improve on specifically when it comes to leadership? So that's my everyday. I do it inside of work and outside of work as well.
No, that's awesome. I'm taking notes, always express to my students and people who are learning from some of my podcasts and also YouTube videos. Take notes. It's important for everything when you're learning. I'm taking notes because I'm learning a lot right now. So I thank you for that information. And I think there was
Let
something.
me add, let me add one thing that I learned today that I took a note on. I
Gotcha.
was talking to a colleague and about a difficult conversation that someone else was having. And
Mm,
this person has over 30 years of professional experience. And the wise counsel that this person gave to someone that he mentors was show up, state your case, and then answer questions. The advice was to to keep from getting emotional in tough
mm,
conversations. You state your case first, and then you stick to answering questions after. You don't try to convince people. You don't. That's not the way you get emotional in tough conversations, even at work, is when you try to convince someone on the other side. He said, go in strong, state your case, and then answer the questions you were asked after that. So I certainly took notes on that today because I think it's a really powerful way to think about how
mm.
you advocate for yourself and how you have tough conversations at work.
That's definitely wonderful to add there because this is the things you get when you get into work. A lot of people, like you said, we're so easily ready to respond versus listening.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a way to actually have a system in place that allows you
Right.
to receive, also be
Yep.
ready to think. And then before
Yep.
you respond, your mother's always telling you, think before you respond. This is it.
Yep. Yeah.
This definitely
Yeah.
makes sense. Definitely
Yeah. And
makes sense.
because sometimes we can feel, especially people from, underrepresented backgrounds in the workplace. Again, thinking about this from a DEI perspective, oftentimes we can feel like our reactions are overanalyzed, right? And so,
Right, right.
if we respond, if we're upset about something, then we feel like we're going to be fitting a profile. Or if, as a woman, if
Mhm,
there's an emotional response, it's because she's a woman. But this framework of stating your case, objectively, and then
mhm.
listening to respond to the questions that you're asked, it gives us kind of a framework within which we can operate and feel more in control of the conversation. Right. And that
Right.
to me is really, really helpful. So, yeah.
That's
Cool.
awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad we got an extra nugget here. We haven't even started into the topic yet, but I
I
appreciate this altogether. I think the audience will love this information. And one of the things that I want to go back to is just what you said, showing up authentically.
Mhm.
It's a hard word for me, but showing up authentically for yourself and at the workplace. I think a lot of people go into work thinking, okay, I've gotten this job now. I need to emulate somebody else. I need to be like this person and that person. Now, those people that you see doing well, you can take some nuggets of what they,
Mhm.
may present, but you don't need to be like them. You need to be yourself so that way you can find who you are in the workplace and don't overload, stress yourself out for having two personalities at work. We
Absolutely.
know we don't want that. We don't want that at all. So that was
Yeah.
awesome tip.
Yeah.
Good,
Yep,
good.
agreed. Like the sweet spot is where you are able to, I think the sweet spot is where you're able to show up as who you are, right?
Mhm.
Do things that come to you naturally, right? And that's what you get paid to do. I call
Right.
that an occupation, right? It's what I get paid to do to leverage the skills that I have. Of course, there's room to grow, and we'll talk about that in a little
Mhm.
bit. But it's like this groove that I'm in. I love
Right.
words. I love people. I love presenting. I love speaking. I love coaching. Those are the things that I love, and those are the things that I get called on to do. Now, can I do
Right.
Excel spreadsheets and pivot tables? Sure. Do I want to? No. So I'm in the sweet spot of the job that I have
Right.
is aligned to the things that I'm good at. And so when we think about transforming your career, If people are able to pivot into roles where what they do at work aligns with what they're good at naturally, and then they have room to grow, like that's the sweet spot.
Right, right. Transforming. Let's find it first, and then we'll
Yeah,
transform it
yeah,
once
exactly.
you get
Yeah.
there. Good stuff. So let's get into the meat of everything. So we're applying career mindset to your goals, and obviously you kind of given us a lot of things that help align you to your mindset. And what I want to go around is, okay, goal setting. How do you set goals? In the workplace around keeping your mindset in mind, but also how do you apply these goals in the workplace? And we talk about SMART goals all the time, but I just want to know if those are things, is that one of the things that you use SMART goals, or what do you use in the workplace today as far as setting your goals around your mindset?
Yeah, so I would say that the most important thing is to make sure that the work that you are doing, or to try to make sure that the work that you are doing is aligned with the business's goals overall, right? That way,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing on a day to day basis, you're able to connect it to the value that you bring to the company. So whether, SMART goals are very important, but if you have a SMART goal that's unrelated to business performance, or a SMART goal that's unrelated to how your department is functioning, that's not really going to be
Mm-hmm.
that helpful. So I say the first thing is making sure that what you're working on is connected to the business's overall strategy or performance. How can, if you're working in HR, how can you work on something, whether it's part of your day job or if you're doing it as a stretch project? How can you
Mm-hmm.
connect that back to advancing culture? How can you connect that back to, developing a new product? How can you connect what you're doing every day back to, why the company exists and what the company's purpose is? So I think that's the number one thing. Then when setting goals, I think it's important to understand and have a mindset around, long-term goals are really important, but one of the things that we talk about with SMART goals is something that's time bound, right? Having a
Mm-hmm.
goal that goes on into perpetuity, so forever and ever, is really not that helpful because,
Right, right.
if you get to it, you get to it. If you don't, you don't, right? But if you can find a goal, for the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, or by the end of the year, I want to do X, I think that's really important as well. And it gives you something to track towards every single day. So when we think about the mindset that you want to have around goal setting, specifically in the workplace, it's
Mm-hmm.
how is it aligned to the company's mission? And then how can I execute on a timeline that is really impactful, right? So longer term stuff is cool, but a lot of organizations, especially in this climate, have a bias to action and a bias to outcome. So the sooner you can deliver some outcomes, or the sooner you can get to work on something, the better off you'll be. That also helps with your own personal mindset around how you develop and grow your career.
That's great. That's awesome stuff. I like to get keywords. Keywords for me was alignment, strategy,
Mm-hmm.
impact. We might be able to create our own goal system here, but yeah, people always come up with different acronyms, but I don't think we can spell one out of ASI. But that was awesome information there. I like that part. And within the goal setting piece here, um, there's a growth mindset.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have a growth mindset, and a lot of that stuff I've talked about in earlier pieces of my course and training information. But that growth mindset, the depths of that, and discovering of who you are, and really knowing what you want, helps you build those goals better. So if you don't really
Absolutely.
understand who you are, what you are, what you want to drive towards, you're going to go back into that other phase that we talked about of being somebody else. And we don't want you to
Right.
be somebody else. We want you to strive after your goals and what you want for yourself. So good
Absolutely.
information.
Yeah. Growth mindset is so important as well, because when you think about like evolving and,
Mm-hmm.
the folks who are taking this course and who are thinking about how to evolve their careers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not too many of us are going to be able to retire at 50, right? We have long
Right.
careers ahead of us. And so if you have a fixed mindset specifically around your career, and you think that, in your early career or mid career, that you have everything you're going to have, then that's going to make for
Mm-hmm.
a very boring mid career to retirement. But if you have this
Exactly.
growth mindset around the fact that you can acquire new skills, you can transform your career, you can pivot into a different industry or a different part of a company, if you have that sort of expansive view of work, it'll just make work much more interesting and give you space
Right.
to grow. And I think it's also important to just note that growth and in career transformation, we want to go up, but we also want to
Mm.
go out. So the breadth of
Yes.
your experience, the breadth of your exposures equally to me as important
Mm-hmm.
as ascending a ladder, right? So being able to do different things and get exposure is really, really important because you can see what you like and
Mm-hmm.
what you don't like, right? As I mentioned, I can do pivot tables in Excel, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to. So once I got my toe in that kind of work, I was like, it's not for me.
Right,
But
right.
I tried it, right? And if I thought, oh, I'm only good at this one thing, I never would have learned how to, crunch my own data. So I think it's
Right.
really important to think about how that growth mindset, when you're thinking about career growth and career transformation, how it's integral to how you see yourself and how you see your future.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think this is a good way to segue into the mindset even more. But, let's talk about mindset and networking. You know,
Mm-hmm.
people have I think there's a lot of misconceptions about how I get into a company or even how I even start my journey on a career. And it's all about what I need to put out there. I need to put out a good resume. I need to make my LinkedIn look amazing. And then that's it. Then everybody's going to come to me and then want me. And then I'm going to be hired. Or also when I get into a job, I'm going to be liked based on the work that I do. And
Absolutely not.
it really boils down to networking. So if you could just talk about networking
It's,
and the
it's
mindset you need to have around that.
It's so important. And I think, what you mentioned about your personal brand is really a foundational thing, right? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As you are, I think everyone should have a LinkedIn profile. I think that everyone should have, an up-to-date resume or career journey story, however you want to tell it, depending on what
Right,
industry you're in. But that's like table stakes. You just need to have that, right?
right,
Beyond that, relationships are everything. Social capital is everything. Whether
right.
it's you wanting to transition in your current company or you want to pivot outside, change industries, relationships are so important. And the reason they're important is because when we think about job applications or acquiring a new role, right? If there's an application and a company is accepting it and it's public, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
likely going to receive thousands of applications for a role,
We talk about this
thousands.
a lot.
And there's
Yes,
likely
thousands.
thousands, right? If not tens of thousands. And
Mm-hmm.
so as great as your resume may be and as awesome as it may be through the keywords that you have, even if it makes it through the applicant tracking system, there's just a chance that a recruiter might miss it. What
Right,
better way to get in front of a
right.
hiring manager or to get in front of a recruiter than through a connection that you make? And so when we think
Exactly.
about making these connections, going back to authenticity, that's really the most important. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, making connections on LinkedIn is cool, right? But you can't just go through and click everybody, right? You need to be
Right,
able to establish a relationship and offer something that makes you stand out. So it's not just, hey, I think I'm great for this role, but can you connect with people that you can have a genuine, you know, genuine areas of interest that overlap, or you went to the same school, or you go to the
mm,
same church, or what your kids go to, whatever the thing is, right? What is that human connection that you can have with someone that will make them want to, you know, give you a referral link or,
yep,
put your resume in front of someone. And so again, that authenticity and connecting as a human is really important. Also, when we think about what you can offer, oftentimes when we're thinking about networking, we just want to go out and hand out our virtual cards or exchange information on
mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, but we're doing so from the perspective of we want to receive. When in reality, you need to be willing to offer something, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
upfront, but be willing to offer something in order for people to want to engage in that relationship with you. So, same
Right,
thing with mentor and mentee relationships. It's not just about asking, right? Just be prepared to offer something as well. So
right.
that's, and then follow up is really important as well. I couldn't tell you how many times, I do a speaking engagement or, I'm
Mm,
somewhere and people are like, hey, yeah, let's connect. And they never follow up. I tell people all the time, feel free, check me out on LinkedIn. But if you don't follow up with me and you're the one that needs something,
right,
that's on you. So people really need
right,
to be, actively communicating, maintaining those
right,
relationships, paying attention to, who is in what seat,
right.
leveraging your relationships and not being afraid to ask. So if there's a role at a company that you're interested in and you know somebody who knows somebody, reach out.
Mhm.
Last thing I'm going to say on this is be somebody who's worth referring though.
Right.
Your character is so important, right? Your character is so important. And again, when I mention how important relationships are, that social capital that comes along with
Mhm.
relationships, if we think about it as money, right? People only have a certain amount of social capital and relationship capital that they are willing to spend. they're not going to spend it on somebody who's seen as untrustworthy, somebody who, didn't do the work to make sure their resume was on par. You got to
Right.
show up as somebody that I'm willing to invest some of my social capital in. So that's what I'd say. I know it's
No,
a lot.
it was a lot, but it's nuggets. We got a lot of nuggets here, and
But
trust me, I'm gonna have to go back and rewrite these notes. I wrote notes. I was like, oh, she's going in now. She's you're
what I
turning into
do.
flames over there. This is good stuff. This is good stuff. But I mean, some of the things I even put down was like, okay, having a good recruiter as a friend, or even if you make friends with somebody who may have reached out to you before, it's always awesome to have, because if they don't know something in their job, they know someone else who knows. So always keep
Absolutely.
a good recruiter as a friend in your back pocket. And like they say, you know, if you want something really bad, you do the right things to get it.
Hmm.
So when we're talking about getting a job or being in position at a job to get a promotion or anything of that nature, sell yourself. I've been giving that advice over the
Absolutely.
years and didn't understand what that meant, but selling yourself is huge. You should love to sell yourself. I mean, you're not in a bad way. Let's make sure clear. But we're selling
Yes.
yourself for
Yes.
career growth, for career advance. But also,
Yep.
again, when you're selling yourself, you're not selling a sack of potatoes. No, you're selling filet mignon. You're trying to say, hey, I am
Absolutely.
and put this work in. This is what I offer. Can you support me, help me to get me to
Yeah.
another level?
This
And
is what
that's the
I
key.
this is what I offered. This is what I offer. This is what I have accomplished. This is how
Right.
quickly I'll be able to add value. I see y'all have this gap. Here's how I can fill it. So
Right.
storytelling is so important in all of this, right? I think you raised the
Hmm.
point earlier around um, people who think that they're going to be promoted because they do good work. And
Right.
a lot of us were raised to keep our heads down and you just do a good job because that's what you're there to do.
Right.
What's really changed in this environment is that a lot of managers are player and coach, right? So they have their own job that they're doing, and
Hmm.
then they're coaching or managing others. So they unfortunately don't have the capacity to pay attention to all the accomplishments of the folks who report to them. So
Right.
you need to keep your brag folder. You need to, to include when you receive positive feedback. You need to talk about when, how you learned a lesson when something didn't go the right way. You need to have all of this stuff. So you're constantly providing this feedback to your manager or whoever so that they, not just at the time of promotion, but
Mm.
so that they constantly know how you are contributing. So you're top of mind. That storytelling aspect is so, so, so important. Same thing on LinkedIn. Tell a
Right.
story about your career journey. Don't just have, these little bullets and then expect people to read through it.
Right.
No, highlight the milestones. What have you done? Quantify it in numbers. Make it really easy for people to understand the impact that you can have at an organization. So you
You're
stand
giving
out from
away
the
my entire course. Don't give all the
sorry.
don't get it. Yeah. No, this is good. Keep it going. Keep
Okay,
it
yeah.
going.
Good stuff.
Oh, this is great. This is great. I appreciate all of that. Um, just pivoting to maybe into this last section here. I want to talk about this because a lot of times we don't recognize, but even see that, we learn a lot of stuff from the outside to get into a job. But then there's opportunities where we actually take what we've learned at work and apply it to the real world. Do you have
Mhm.
examples of that? Or have you, taken some of your actual work life stuff, learnings, trainings, courses, conferences that you've taken and then applied it back to the real world?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So I did like a leadership development training in 2018. I won
Mm-hmm.
it, and it was something that I wouldn't have taken sort of on my own. I won it as part of
Mm-hmm.
something else. Transformative. It really helped me understand what my personal motivations were at work. And
Mm-hmm.
so it also helped me understand how things that are important to me may not be as important to other people. Case in point, did a needs
Yes.
assessment. And I learned that my need for order is very high, whereas other people's need for order isn't as high. And so within this
Mm-hmm.
assessment, I was in this leadership cohort with 10 other people who were high performers. So they were really good at their job. They had excelled, achieved a lot of stuff. And so being in that group of people and seeing how differently we ranked on needs or what our leadership styles were, all these
Mm-hmm.
different things, but yet we were individually successful in our own ways, it really helped me in my personal life. Because
Mm-hmm.
to that point, I probably had thought that my way was the way, right?
Right,
And
right.
I was not as receptive to the fact that there could be another way to reach the same end goal. And so that's something that has really transformed how I think about life and how I interact with other people, right? Like my
Mm,
way of doing it, even though I'm successful, isn't the only way. It's not the only route. And I need to be respectful and encouraging of those who want to go a different route. So that's just an example, also. Storytelling, also very important as well. Value of
mhm.
storytelling at work, we just talked about it a little bit, really important. The value of storytelling and experience sharing at home is important too, right? Sometimes
Right.
we just get the highlights with the people in our lives, but helping them understand everything that goes into the story is equally as important, inviting people into your world. So those are a couple of things that I think specifically over the past few years that have been impactful for me.
No, that's incredibly awesome. I mean, you talk about storytelling. The other day, I just sat down and had my daughter, and we talked about the planets. We talked about the solar system, how Earth was made, and she was like,
Mhm.
"I love planets again. I'm going back to the solar system." Her mind is incredible, but that's awesome. I mean, storytelling is a key piece in all of this, as far as for yourself, for your goals, for your mindset, for networking. One of the things I want to just pivot, not pivot, but go back to when we talk about mindset from the world to real life action. Even for myself, I learned how to be a leader at work.
Mhm.
I would say, a decent leader. I knew what I was doing, but I was working my way through it, ups and downs. I had some peaks and valleys at work. And it wasn't until I started coaching Little League football. I think you remember that. I did it for
Mhm.
7 years. Coaching Little League football, I took what I knew at work and applied it to football and
Mhm.
became a organized, structured, strategic beast.
Yeah.
Goals, smart goals. Every
Yeah.
kid had goals. We had everything was structured alignment all the way into the parents. I had a goal sheet and also a pretty much a philosophy that everybody had to sign off on in order to have agreement to
Yeah.
what we were going to achieve every season. And it wasn't about
Yeah.
winning. We, of course, we want to win. We
Right.
want to win in the classroom, everything to that nature. Now, doing that for 7 years helped me understand how to corral and herd the cats. So what happens is I learned how to take that back to work. So I
Yeah.
have 30
Exactly.
kids plus parents, and now I go back to work. I got 30 employees,
Right.
which is almost like having kids, because now they trust you as a manager to lead them and to
Right. A
develop
little
them
different,
and
but
to
yeah.
really help them in all those spaces. So in both elements, my career mindset engaged in my
Mhm.
worldly mindset, to also have a mindset that I could take back to my career mindset and
Absolutely.
elevate
Yeah.
myself to another level. And that's important because you have so many transferable skills, not just for the workplace, but in your
Yeah.
personal life,
They're
that you
life
can
skills.
apply in both ways. Yes, life skills.
They're
Life
life skills.
skills.
And people are people, right? And I
Mhm.
think oftentimes, we uh, kudos to anyone who separates their work life from their personal life. And that there's
Right,
a hard line, right? But for many of us, it's blurred. And I think
right,
that accepting that, you can compartmentalize, but a lot of what you do in working with people and being in relationship with people, whether that's a work relationship, a romantic relationship, or platonic relationship, whether you're older, younger, whatever it is, those life skills are really important because we're interacting with people. And to your point
right.
around coaching kids, if we could get kids at an early age, right, to understand the importance
Mm,
of, structure and the importance of communication and the importance of setting a goal and what do you do if you don't reach it and what failure looks like and you still pick yourself back up. Like if we could teach them that at an early age, they'll be so much better off as they get older, right? Because that's
right,
just a part
right.
of life. So these aren't things, what we're talking about aren't skills that are only applicable and only relevant at work. It's just whenever you're interacting with people, that authenticity, we crave structure. We like to
Mhm.
understand, the strategy, where we're going, as a leader of a household, being able to tell your family, hey, this is the plan for the year. Here's where we're headed. People will certainly follow you as opposed to you being like, I don't really know what we got going on. Same
Right,
thing
right.
CEOs do, right? So whether you're the CEO of your family or CEO of a company, all of that stuff is important. And those are skills that, to your point, are transferable.
Great,
Yeah.
great information. I love it. I love it. We've tackled everything, but I did want to go back to what you talked about assessing yourself or even doing assessments. So there are several different assessments out here, and this is the things I want to encourage, my audience, my students, everybody to really do for themselves, because this also helps mold your mindset. And
Hmm.
there's DIS assessments, standout
Hmm.
assessments, Myers-Briggs. Which ones have you taken? I think I've done all of them.
I've done Myers Briggs. I've done DISC assessment, and no
Hmm.
surprise, I'm high I. And on the DISC assessment, and super extroverted when it comes to Myers Briggs. But
Hmm.
I think those are the only two sort of personality profile. Taken the updated MTBI as well. But I think there are lots of additional tools out there.
Hmm.
As an aside, I will try to find the names of some of those assessments that I took that talked about sort of needs, because I
Hmm.
think those are really important as well. In addition to that, I think asking others, right, what you're good at, asking others, whether it's through a 360-degree, assessment, really, if you want to transform your career and you're serious about this, you're going to have to be open to the fact that you may have blind spots, right? And the best way
Exactly.
to understand
Exactly.
what those blind spots may be is to ask other people that you trust. I'm not saying
Right.
you need to ask the hater, right? Because that person may be making up a blind spot. But ask colleagues that you currently work with, what they think about, you and your performance. How do you excel? What opportunities exist for you? Ask
Right.
people in your friend circle who are familiar with you as a worker. Ask people in your family so that you can get a well-rounded view, not just of what you want, but
Hmm.
places that you excel, and then kind of build your plan from there.
Don't go to the friends that are going to tell you what you want to hear.
Exactly. No, we all.
You want
I
to talk
saw
to those.
I saw a meme or something on Instagram that said you need those friends in your circle that are going to tell you no, and those friends that are going
Mhm.
to keep it real. Because if we're looking to
Right.
grow, we're looking to excel, and we're looking to build, and we have that growth mindset that says there may be stuff I don't know, but I can acquire that skill, then we need to know what those things are.
Right, 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 right. So, having a good mentor, having a friend
Yeah.
who will talk to you outside and hold you accountable is important.
Yep.
Important. And these assessments. So we're gonna, give a list of all these assessments in the course, but also on YouTube as well. Trust me. Pick one, choose all of them. It's good to
Yeah.
know who you are, understand your strengths, weaknesses, your personality. Sometimes we think we know ourselves until we really do the work to figure out, oh, you know what? I do act kind of shy when I get around certain. I am not able to speak out in certain things, but I do speak out when I'm angered. Or there's a lot of things that really pull out who you are. Or also, who are you? A creator? Are you an educator? Are you a teacher?
Mm-hmm.
There's different assessments out here that are here to help you understand who you are. And when you do that, you're able to articulate that when explaining yourself to somebody
Mm-hmm.
who may be hiring you for a job, or you're
Yeah.
looking for a promotion, or
Mm-hmm.
just trying to network with people so they understand how to talk and understand who you are. So,
Absolutely. And as you're selecting what you want to
mhm,
do, right? So if you are a person, if you find yourself to be more introverted, right? And you interacting with people on a daily basis and speaking to people on a daily basis is draining to you, you
mhm,
may not want to seek out a job that where that's a requirement. And that's
right,
okay. That's another
right,
thing. I think a lot of times people feel like maybe the parts of their personality that aren't hmm, that don't get as much shine, right? So there
mhm,
is certainly bias towards extroverts, right? And so introverts may want to lean into being an extroverted introvert, but there are plenty of
right,
roles, plenty of ways that people can be successful by leaning into who they are, right? And so those assessments that you do will they aren't absolute, and there may be some anomalies within the results, but they can kind of give you a sense for who you are. Lean into
right,
that, right? Lean into
right,
what comes
right.
naturally to you. So yeah.
This is great. This is great. Dee, I want to thank you so much because right now I have so many notes. I learn something from you every time I talk with you. So this is incredible. I
Same.
appreciate you for helping out and definitely being on the show today as my special guest. I'm pretty sure my students, the audience, everybody that's included in listening to this will definitely appreciate the nuggets that we dropped today. There's a lot of nuggets to drop. I don't even know where to even start. I got notes. Show up, show your state your case, answer questions, alignment, strategy, impact. There's so many things here that we have. And Definitely, I'm going to go back and review this. But if anybody wanted to reach out to you and just pick your brain even some more after this, how can they reach you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah. Always find me on LinkedIn. So it's
Mhm.
Dee McDougal as listed here on the materials. On LinkedIn, I have on the same yellow blazer. So you can find me there. I'm always happy to connect, people, any student who's going through this course or a connection of yours, I would consider a connection of mine. So, I post articles and all sorts of stuff on LinkedIn all the time. So happy to connect
Great.
and chat about how people can transform their careers.
Great, 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 great. Well, Dee, it was a pleasure having you here. I want to thank you for coming on, showing the world the excellent leadership that you have in the global DEI space. This is wonderful. Applying your career mindset to your goals. This is it, folks. If you want to learn more, continue to go and follow Career Transformation Academy. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and on TikTok as the Blueprint by CTA. Information given out weekly on the surface levels. But if you really want to take a deep dive into what we have here, you can go to our course, which is on www.careertransformationacademy.com. That information will be in the description. And you can actually click on the links in there and learn more. So we go into a deep dive, a comprehensive program from start to finish of you getting a career to when you get the career, what do I do next? All of that is included in the package. So if you're interested in learning more and grabbing that, go ahead and sign up and book right now. But again, thank you, Dee. I appreciate you. This
My
was
pleasure.
awesome. Wrapping up another one. Your interview expert, Mark Thompson, here again with the awesome and special Dee McDougal. And we're out.
All right. Bye.